thinking about this growing economy and all that cash flowing about, wondering how unlocking cash without a 9 to 5 could be real? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Mr. Tyler Gordon got to say this evening as we build on how we can tap into that cash using this special industry called eSports. We'll be right back.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. What we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 242.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we're here this evening with Mr. Tyler Gordon, as I mentioned before, and he's a young starter, pioneering in this new industry, tapped into it a number of years ago, and we're going to hear from him that he talked about. We must apologize that we have some technical difficulties in our late start, one of which my sound was messed up and his camera is messed up. So you got just me and my smile. That's it tonight. So do stick around. Don't worry about me. You just keep going. Listen, the content, what he's got to drop on this table today is going to be real, and that's what we want to hear, because a lot of us are searching, and what he has to say today, I believe, can help a lot of people. So, welcome, Tyler. How you doing today?
Hello. I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Yes, one of those days that Murphy just tries to get in the way, but you know, it always when we have a show where somebody's going to be dropping some nuggets that's going to help a lot of people in their finances.
Yeah, well, you know, they say they can't keep a good man down.
There you go. Well, you know, that's why we got you here, to keep us all up. You know.
Yes.
So, yes. So, Tyler, tell us, who is Tyler Gordon, and why are you a social conscious man, entrepreneur, and all of these other good things that you have as a young man? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, so that people can have a appreciation of your background.
Sure. So my name is Tyler Gordon. I go by Ronan on most digital spaces, in-game names, you know, social media, all of that. And basically, I grew up on the internet. When I was young, you know, I vividly remember going from dial-up to DSL. I spent, you know, from 5 years old, I got a PlayStation 1 console, and I've been, you know, a heavy gamer ever since. So I grew up on the internet, and so a lot of my focus is on how we can utilize the internet really to take the Bahamas to the next level, and have us, you know, globally competitive in as many areas as possible. So naturally, you know, with my passion for gaming, that led me to eSports. With my passion for anime and such, that led me to creating Manga Corps. There's a lot of, you know, stuff that I'm really just personally passionate about that I see there's no opportunities for young Bahamians, and so I just decided, you know, it's best if we just create it ourselves instead of waiting for someone else to come and do it. So that's really what drives me.
Yeah, I believe it's Mr. Bailey who says that, you know, if it's gonna be, it's up to me. So, you know, we fully endorse that. Pave your way. Don't wait for somebody to do it for you. And we put in a bunch of digital infrastructure, and so what you're tapping into is gonna be there for a long time. And there's a lot of work being done around the world to cause all of these things. So, folks out there, as we move forward, if you could hear us all good, just throw a thumbs up through the notes. Know that you could add comments, your questions through the chat below, and then we will go forward and endeavor to answer them for you. So, Tyler, the social part is good. So, Nebula?
Nebula.
That's how you pronounce it? Nebula.
Black Nebula. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Tell us a
Uh,
little bit about the two of those companies you were associated with.
So Black Nebula was my first venture into esports. Around 2017, 2018, a friend and I noticed that there were a lot of gamers in the Bahamas, but very little like actual esports. Very little organized tournaments and national and regional competition, etc. So we basically just set out to try and touch on every aspect of that industry in order to grow it, from the ground up in a grassroots sort of way. So that led us to being introduced to Michael Armagon, who's currently president of the Bahamas Esports Federation, and of course through our being a part of the same industry and working together, etc. He invited me to become one of the board members of the BESF. So my current position is vice president of events and tournaments. So I'm the one that handles all of the competitive aspects of the National Federation, whether it be organizing tournaments or just more casual community-focused events, or organizing national teams and allowing players to travel and compete for the Bahamas in esports. That's my current role within esports. Unfortunately, Black Nebula was forced to shut down during the pandemic. So now I'm just focused on the public work side of things, trying to build the infrastructure and allow other people who want to build private organizations or who want to participate in the esports industry in the various possible ways to have a more of a basis for that. And Manga Corps is not really as complex. I'm just a huge anime fan, and I have a manga collection. And so, in sharing that with my friends, a lot of people are like, "Oh, where'd you get it from?" etc. So I just decided to partner up with some of my friends who I grew up with, and start a business where we provide access to manga for the average Bahamian who might not know the series exists, or might not be able to import the books, or might not be able to find it over here, etc. So we, that's really the goal with that. But I found that in both of those communities, there are a lot of people who have, I guess, dreams of being part of these communities and don't really know where to start, or, are sort of siloed within their own friend groups, and they're like, oh, well, I'm into anime or I'm into esports and I didn't know we had this over here, so
Right.
I'm really excited about it and now I want to participate, and etc. So it's really, for me, it's really just like paving the way for people with more niche interests in the Bahamas, to have a safe space or an opportunity to grow within these budding industries that are really just starting to kick up globally.
Yes, and that's awesome because what you just tap into is you doing two things using digital, and as you put on the screen here below, it says the new built environment is something that I coined a few years back, and what we were talking about is that we need, coming out of COVID, actually this was at the beginning of COVID when I coined it and saying that everybody want to get back to what was normal, and I said no, we need to create the new built environment that we actually want, not to go back to what it was, because I think most people would agree that there was plenty of things that we didn't like about how things were going on, especially those of us who are under 45, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't mind. I'm still a young fella upstairs. Maybe not otherwise, but anyway. So the bottom line is it built on 5 pillars, as you can see on the screen there. And so one of those pillars is digital, which is very near and dear to me, being somebody who would have been ancient back in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, in order to start building a digital environment here in the Bahamas and so forth. And so anything I could do to help us move to the next level would be good. And those are the things that we really want to be able to do and so forth. And so as we look at that, what I believe based on those 5 pillars, is we could get to $100 billion economy within a 5 to 10 year period if we are intentional in our approach. And so you mentioned 2 things just off the top that could happen on digital, and I know you are doing a lot of things with people on digital and helping them with your entrepreneurial skills that you have and people skills and so forth. And so when we look at that whole picture, then we have to ask the question, is eSports, because a good friend of mine threw this out to me, that it's it's just gaming, it's just play. And so the question is eSports real or play for children? Is it a toy or is it an industry?
I mean, the argument can be made that, video games are for entertainment. However, when you look at traditional sports like basketball, that's also just entertainment, right?
Exactly.
So what's really the difference? Just because one is more physical or traditionally physical doesn't mean that it's superior in one way or better in any way. And it's so crazy because a lot of people grossly underestimate the amount of work that goes into being a professional esports athlete. A lot of those dudes pull 17, 18-hour days, just sitting online, practicing,
Right.
Getting in matches with other people, scrimmages, etc., entering tournaments, training, streaming, and they still have to go out and earn a living at the end of the day because the industry is so young.
Right.
Obviously not everyone can get paid, $100,000 a year. But I think that really touches on something that's the main issue in the Bahamas, is that a lot of people don't fully understand the scope of this industry. You have tournaments where players are earning millions of dollars for winning. A couple of years ago, I think it was in about 2018 or so, before
Right.
COVID,
Right.
there was this guy this 16, 17-year-old kid who won a big Fortnite competition. Very popular game with the kids, but he won a big Fortnite competition, and he made a couple $1 million. I think it was like $3 million off of that.
Yeah, just under 3, yeah.
Yeah, literally him by himself, and his parents had to, put it in a fund and all that sort of stuff, lock it away until he was 18, etc. So, a lot of people really take this as, oh, well, you're just playing video games, but they don't see the work or the payoff that really comes from it. So let's look at organizing, a major tournament the size of the one that I just mentioned. Obviously, you need players for that. And, for the players to get to a tournament of that scale, they have to win many other tournaments to get there. So this is not just, a one-off tournament,
Right.
etc. They've probably been working towards that for the past, 7-8 months before that. And not only that, you need people who organize the tournament, who run the tournament, that's a job. You need people who commentate on the tournament so viewers understand what's going on, that's a job. You need people to spectate the tournament so you can see what's going on, that's a job. You need, the people who do stage production, audio and visual, hosts. You need managers behind the teams to give these players opportunities, etc., etc. And so when people look at esports, they just say, oh, well, they're just playing video games. But the reality is we're trying to build an industry surrounded by or encompassing thousands of jobs that go into putting on these large entertainment productions that are, more than just, oh, well, 2 people sitting in their living room playing video games together, right? And so when you look at traditional sports, everyone is outside, everyone is running, everyone is gathered in a great place. Sure, they make their money off merchandise and people buying seats and etc., buying jerseys and all that. And then when COVID came, all of that shut down, right? And so that really spoke to the fragility of that, where traditionally, because all of these sports started long before the technological advancements that we have, they have sort of a leg up However, when you look at the way the world is going, everything is becoming digitized between your money,
Right.
your owning your music is becoming digitized, et cetera, et cetera. It's only natural that entertainment and thus sports and, thus esports and video games becomes a very serious cornerstone within that. So there's a lot of potential and a lot of work that goes into making these things happen. And so our goal at the BESF is to really just prepare as many people for as many different jobs as possible within this industry so that they can participate, learn, come back, and help it grow.
Yeah, and I have a friend in the States who is, I don't want to say big, but he's active. And he tells me that every single function in a regular professional sport is what is happening now in esports. And back in 2018, 19, as you spoke, before COVID, when Michael was on the show, Amagon, as I call him, he had indicated that I think it was Formula One or one of those fast racing, as
Yeah.
well as maybe NBA or one of those other sports that was already had professional leagues on esports, and
Yeah.
they were doing everything what was happening in the regular world on that, and they projected by I think it's 5 or so years they would have been up to $2 billion industry. If
Globally,
everything kept
yes.
going, but COVID might have slowed that down. I don't know, or speed it up because we see what happened on here.
Yeah.
Craven and this and that.
As far as COVID goes, yes and no. It really depends on the people working in it and if they saw the opportunity with everything moving online to be able to pivot from all the in-person plans that they had to online plans. But as you say, there really is a lot less difference between a professional esports athlete and a professional traditional athlete. You still have to make sure your body is in good condition. There are studies that show that esports players who are more active have better sleep schedules, better eating habits, etc., perform better in game. You don't have that mental fog or physical lethargy that can prevent you from performing at your best. And it's also a very mental thing. You have to be able to analyze and understand what's really going on and keep up with the game because a lot of these games change very often. Every 2
Okay.
weeks they may change something about the game that may completely disrupt your entire game plan. So it's important to be, flexible and have understanding and all of that. And there's also, the team and communication aspect of it for a lot of games. Just like with any traditional sports team, you have esports teams who have to go through the same team building exercises, who have to keep up the same or even a higher level of communication, et cetera, et cetera. So just because, it's not we're outside shooting a ball doesn't mean that it's less important or viable or difficult even.
Yeah. Cool. That's really, 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 really crazy. And it's interesting that this is, as long as I've been fighting and others have been fighting to get us to do things on our digital platforms, this sports is one of the ones that's taken the lead in getting things up around here, even though we're a little bit behind in a lot of different ways. But my sponsor friend, I know he's listening in. So put your money on the table, man. These guys need money to get this thing rolling. You and your business could make business out of this, and we'll make the contact for you later on.
Absolutely.
So forth. And so we know this runs on digital then. So when we look at the whole thing, what is the structure? So people would know that they're not going to get shammed or scammed or whatever and stuff. What is the structure? You mentioned the federation here, but what is the other governance and the laws or what you could just touch on? We're not going to do a deep dive on those, but just the highlight.
the thing is, because this is so new, there isn't really much structure globally. And so that's one of the things that the Federation is really trying to do. We're trying to educate the public as well as the government on the benefits of esports to get more structure in this country, and integrating yourself into already established cultures is
Right.
it's an uphill battle. And so that's why I spoke on the beginning of it being education first. We still have a lot of people who feel as if, oh, this is a waste of time, and they don't want their children doing it because it's quote unquote unproductive. And then we show them the numbers and how much their child can be earning and how much people have earned historically, and suddenly they're gung ho. Well, oh, he's on the game 3 o'clock in the morning every time, so sign him up. He's gonna go right ahead. And so we're really trying to create, like I said, more opportunities for people to be able to empower themselves, so that you don't have to worry about, hey, I want to run this tournament because I have a lot of friends who are in this game, and the only person offering it is kind of suspect nearby. We want to teach people to be able to run this themselves, and so they get the opportunity to either participate on a larger scale globally where things are more established, or build up the scene here. And so participating in local tournaments, generally, depending on the tournament, it might be a small fee, it might be free to enter, etc. But it's a lot less about, how do I put this? It's a lot less about getting scammed and making money as it is about, building your skill set, making connections, being able to gain that experience, so that when you go outside the Bahamas, you're not a small fish in a big pond.
Right. Right.
You kind of have your feet wet already. So there's a lot of things that go into it before we even really get to the point of making this a career for anyone.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is good. But success happens when preparation meets opportunity. So the people, you have to prepare from your perspective, and athletes need to prepare. So parents, don't tell your children they can't this and they can't that. Yes, learn your 3 hours, etc. But if they have skills, my son, when he came home from school, a friend just told him. I mean, he wasn't off the plane good. There was this tournament, sign up, and we could do good in this tournament, and he came third. He almost won $3,000, and he didn't even do anything, and that was right here.
Exactly.
So,
And the thing is, there's a lot of opportunity out there for sure. But the way I see it now is, yes, you can definitely play in tournaments and do well and win money, and that's one of the reasons why people should sponsor us, so we can give out bigger prize pools. But that's neither here nor there. But there's a lot of opportunity to win money here and now, but the money that you would be winning in the next 5-10 years is a lot different from the money that you're going to be winning here and now. And so it's really just more of like a long-term investment, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to educate parents so that they don't hold back their kids, as you say, and so that when the time comes for someone who's in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade now, to apply for colleges, for example, they can cite esports experience, and they can apply for the college's esports team and get a scholarship. Or, they can apply for a job and say, hey, I helped run this esports organization, or, I volunteered in this esports federation, etc. So I have the skills necessary to, enhance your organization and experience. And so it just builds on from there. So a lot of it, like I say, is really long-term thinking, and trying to get there by building up as much of the short term as we can.
yeah. And I played baseball, and so you have little league, junior league, senior league, but you go in the professional realm now. You have at least three tiers, if not 4 or 5 tiers, that you have to go through just to get to the majors. So you're not going to make big money right away unless you're supernatural. which it's common. This is nothing new. So don't be swayed by what you're hearing today. Understand, keep your eye on the goal, and function. So when we look at this, we say esports is available to everyone to participate. So that means that you could be a lawyer, you could be doctors too. Because I mean, sometimes people get finger challenges or stress to the neck or the this
And it's so funny that you mention it because one of the main things that a healthy esports environment does is foster, hand-eye coordination, which is obviously very important for a lot of doctors and surgeons especially. So yeah, when you say anyone can participate, then, that's very, very true. Anyone and everyone can participate, no matter what's your race, gender, nationality, creed, anything. There's no barriers because it's all digital. The only thing that matters is how good you are at the game and how well you can communicate. And after that, everything is out of the window.
Yeah, we dumb it down to just your brains and hand-eye coordination and so forth and so on. You don't have to jump high, run fast, be powerful, hit the ball 50,000 miles or whatever. So.
Yeah. And that's something that's very important for the Federation as well. Like, we want to include as many people as possible from as many diverse backgrounds as possible, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're a doctor or a plumber or, you work at Atlantis, it doesn't really matter. And so that's, one of the reasons why we want to keep this as open and accessible to anyone, because you never know who might have talent and opportunity and who might have, the drive and desire to succeed.
Right. And back a couple of years back, I think it was about 2008 or thereabouts, when the swimming Grifter team almost won the Grifter at that time, that the then Minister of Wisdom challenged swimming to try and tap into the inner city, as they referred to it back then, to get more swimmers. And we were saying to him, but everybody pays to swim. All these children don't just jump in the pool. We got to pay the government to use the pool, and we also have to pay for the coaches, etc., who we have. And so with this could even be a avenue for the inner city persons to have access to. So how can we use esports to help our nation and to build our people?
Well, one of the main things we want to do is, like I say, keep it as open and accessible for everyone. So a lot of the tournaments that we personally run are free entry. So, we don't want to say, oh, well, you can't afford this tournament, so you can't come out, etc., etc. So we want to keep it free and open for everyone. And we also want to, allow people as much access as possible. So if we can, get consoles to people, if we can, ideally, we would like to create a physical space where anyone can, come in and play and train and get help and just be around other like-minded people, then, that will naturally foster some opportunities. So we, there's a lot that goes into obviously being able to provide what would typically be a paid service for free. But I think we're in a very good position to do that because we're nationally and globally recognized as the governmental organization. And we're working on getting a few partnerships and sponsorships as well to be able to, keep ourselves afloat and be able to invest the time and money into creating this economy. Because as much as we like it, it's not free. And we can't exactly foot the bill ourselves for forever, so.
Yeah. So when we look at that, then I guess if we look at my other question here, which was what was the major challenges encountered that was impeding esports growth? So money, capital for you to do things. So you would accept if a sponsor was to come right now and say, okay, this gymnasium, we're going to turn this into an esports lab, for lack of a better word. I don't know what y'all call it in your business. So people could come after school and they could get the proper coaching, they could get training, they have the facilities because they might not have it at home. So maybe attach a lab to every school so children who, from school on, if they could do a little bit of training and they could do their homework at the same time. But not whilst they're playing, but whilst they're not on the game, somebody else could be helping them at homework.
Yeah.
What are these are some of the impediments? What other ones might be?
I think money is a big one, but it's not the biggest, I'd say. Because, like I said, there's a lot of things that you can do grassroots without having a lot of money.
Right.
So for us, running a tournament, especially an online one, is very low cost overhead. I'd say, honestly, a lot of the bigger impedances would be the lack of knowledge, either from the local community that doesn't know that we have an eSports ecosystem here, a growing and budding eSports ecosystem, or from the people in charge, really. And when I say that, I mean, parents, teachers, principals, government organizations, etc., especially when it comes to the older generations who didn't grow up with video games and all of that.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, a lot of them are skeptical of the benefits of esports, and they only view it from the side of casual gaming, or they have a young family member who plays a lot of video games instead of doing homework, etc. So I think those are some pretty big challenges, as well as the fact that we're ahead of the time, but we're still a little behind the curve.
Yeah.
So esports really started, I'd say, in about the mid to early 2000s. And it started primarily in like Southeast Asia and America secondarily. So Southeast Asia, America, and Europe have sort of a head start. I want to say like a decade or two head start. When you look at the grand scheme of things for how long, football and basketball have been around, or, rugby or racing or anything like that, it's only, a blip on the radar. But, with all the technological advancements of the past 20 years, it really speeds things up. So I think us being a little behind has hurt things because we're still in the long, slow, foundational period. But I think eventually we're going to hit a point where it becomes a household thing and a household understanding, and then that's when we will really start to grow and skyrocket. But I mean, until that happens, all we can do is keep laying the groundwork and keep working on it and doing things right, so that when it does, things don't fall apart and they just go up.
Cool. So you will benefit, when I say you, the whole ecosystem will benefit from an educational system, sponsors, to come and go around the campuses and the different stakeholders to talk with them and help them understand why. So if you were to just in 2 seconds or so give a quick pitch as to why they need to sit down and listen to you, what would you tell somebody?
I just point out the fact that right now everything is becoming digitized, and that includes entertainment and sports. And so, it's a lot better to take a bet on esports now, so that when things do kick off, as they inevitably will, you've been here from the beginning and you already have skin in the game, as opposed to, waiting until, this already happened and that already happened and we're famous now and all that. And by that time, the ship has already sailed. So you definitely want to get in on this early.
Yeah, you almost make me want to leave where I'm doing and go sit down and do this. Actually,
hey man, every dollar helps.
Right. That'd be. Now, I don't know about the playing part, but at least finding the niche to be support to like I mentioned, you have agents, you have this, you have that. Every aspect of sports in the professional arena is there in esports.
Yeah.
I mean, step you don't have to carry the water, right?
No, you definitely do.
You do still have to give it a water. Actually, they get, somebody still got to drink. They get dehydrated playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these, there are some matches in some games that can run for 3 hours, 4 hours at a time, and so it might not be the same level of physical exhaustion, but the mental exhaustion from that constant focus, that constant tension for hours on end. It's really draining, very exhausting. So it's nothing to sneeze at either.
Cool. Somebody's asking here and say that how can one tap into the growing economy and access cash flow without sticking to a traditional 9-to-5 job? I think that's what we're talking about as a whole. So
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, as with any growing industry or whatever, there's going to be a lot of rocky roads in the beginning. We're still trying to figure things out nationally, and people globally are still trying to figure things out. And I can say that because we're a member of a few international eSports federations, and they have their own unique challenges at scale. So if you're looking to make money off of esports, the quickest thing to do is find some sort of skill that's needed, that's stable, I should say, and sort of hone in on that. So, for example, if you spend a lot of time on social media, these esports organizations and brands are always looking for social media marketers, so that can get you, some sort of employment.
Right.
If you're a naturally funny person, you might be a good host for esports events. You play a lot of video games, but you're, very vocal and very personable. That could be a good career path for you. And so there's a lot of different ways to go into doing it. But there's not really anything where it's like, oh, well, if I start tomorrow, I can start making money,
Yeah. I mean, you just build it up, right, and so forth, and keep going. So, as you mentioned, that those different avenues, I mean, they are basic avenues. I mean, we used to have a guy in baseball who used to play baseball with us, but he and his brother, they talked well, and they went and became in the broadcast industry, and their voices were heard well, and it's the same thing will apply. It's just that it's a digital arena on platform versus what we have out here. Right?
And that's the thing, like there are a lot of, the career span of an average esports player is not as long as people might think. And especially because there's always a new game, there's always new talent, there's always new, people who might be better at one thing than the other. And so what happens is, if they're smart and they're personable and they have the right skill set, after they retire as a player, they may go on to become a commentator. And so because they have the experience playing a game, as with any traditional sports, they are able to offer high-level analysis. They're able to offer insight to the mindset and experiences of the players that you might not know unless you've actually been there yourself. So there's a lot of different avenues and ways you can go about leveraging your experience or your talents within this industry.
Right. Now you're being a little modest to me because when I was asking Michael Amagon to come back on the show, etc., to give us the update, he was saying, no, we gotta get Tyler. Tyler's the man who all over the place with all of the athletes, and he's getting moving, shaking, and all this kind of stuff. So you need to tell us about how you participate in this and how you help the athletes or help in the coordination, and so people could get a good feel for what the industry is from their perspective, and what could happen, or how they might want to tap into the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, that's just like Michael.
Yeah.
He definitely has a good eye for what's going on. But for me personally, I think because I found esports so late, unfortunately, I was, already out of college and in the working world, etc. By the time I really started looking into esports, I realized that for me, it would be a better use of my time organizing tournaments and creating opportunities for people instead of, sitting there and practicing for 17, 18 hours a day as a 25, 27-year-old man trying to catch up to, 12, 13-year-olds who come home from school and do nothing else for the next, 12 hours. And so I really look at it from the perspective of, okay, there's a lot of people over here who are much more talented, much more passionate, and much more dedicated and free than I am. And so because we have the same dream of competitive video games being, a source of income or a staple in our lives, it would be better for me personally to do everything that I can with my skill set to make sure that their dreams come true. And so basically what I do is everything on the back end as much as possible. And within the Bahamas Esports Federation, that breaks down into a couple things. So like I said, I try to host tournaments, whether that's through the Bahamas Esports Federation ourselves, whether that's helping other people within the community host their tournaments, or whether that's helping people who are not part of the community, get involved and reach out, etc. We just had an event in Baintown a couple months ago. I want to say about the end of last year, where we organized an NBA 2K tournament, and we just got people from around the constituency. Hey, come and play 2K. You could win some money, etc., etc. So it was a really good event, and so that just helping get people a taste of what esports is and to participate in esports is, I think, a very fundamental first step, because everyone plays video games, but not everyone knows that you can compete in it, and also that from there it's a lot easier to find people who are interested and dedicated and passionate, which leads into one of the other side of my job in the federation, which is the competitive aspect and getting people to compete for the Bahamas. So I mentioned that we're part of a few international federations, and every year they have tournaments all over the world. Last September we went to Romania. The year before that, our players went to Bali. A couple months ago, we sent someone to Chile. And so there's really a lot of opportunity to travel and just broaden your horizons based on esports. But I think what I do is sort of more macro than what a lot of people will do, because I guess I've been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. I really try to see the entire forest instead of just looking at the individual trees. And so, what I want to do is become a bastion of connection and information and all of that, so that anyone who is interested can come in, can find a place where they can be effective and they can, help things grow. So we, when I was working with Black Nebula, which is my private organization, before we ended up shutting down, we had people who streamed in our employ, just playing the game, getting the word out there, enjoying themselves, creating content. We ran tournaments ourselves. We had, I think our biggest tournament had, I want to say about 150 entrants, and that was an online tournament during COVID. We also sponsored players. We helped people travel to tournaments to compete, help them find accommodations, flights, food, room and board, and all of that sort of stuff. We had some people who we were helping get better at commentary, for example. And so, as many things that can be part of the esports industry. I want to try and find the best people I can and foster their growth and have them, do the same thing down the line, etc. So it really spreads out like, grassroots.
Yeah, and for that little bit that you just said, you touch on so many different opportunities for people to dive into. I mean, you might be on the safest high level coordinating from the big broad brush as to how we could reach all these different things and make sure everything's in alignment and keep going. But somebody has to do the deep dive, and those are opportunities. And so I know you may not want to take back or step back and look at that in detail and so forth. But what you're doing is what is needed in this country, not just in esports, but across the board. You have mentors like yourself and so forth who are helping people, and they get paid to do it. Like you say, maybe the cash flow is not there now, but trust me, people, digital infrastructure is way cheaper to implement than brick and mortar. Take it from me, who've been in the sector for 30, 40 years. So I'm only 45. So I started when I was 5. But trust me. And if you go to Estonia and other places, you will see what people are doing with digital. And so we could do the same thing here in the Bahamas. And my $100 billion economy is a drop in the bucket. People will be laughing later and say, well, only $100 billion, we reach $1 trillion. But it is like that. Cool. So, as we look at these things now then, Tyler, you touch on a number of things that could be happening. Take us through what an athlete would go through when he goes on one of those trips that you talked about to a tournament.
There's so much. So first of all,
more opportunities.
A lot of times before you even get to the big tournaments, you have to qualify. So really what the process would look like, and this is something that we're doing now for a few titles. So we would host, I guess, open tryouts or qualifiers for our national teams, where we say, hey, if you're a Bahamian citizen and you play this game, come compete in this tournament or come sign up or anything like that. And you'll be, a part of the selection process for who we want to send to compete. And then, if you make it through that, then there are chances that you will probably have to play in a regional event. So that's what we traveled to Chile for. We were playing, we sent an eFootball player, which is like digital soccer. We sent an eFootball player to Chile for a regional. And so, the same with any typical traveling, we give people a jersey, we get on a plane with them, go to another country, and we compete to represent the Bahamas. And so, the hotel and flights are generally paid for by the international federations. So whoever's hosting the tournament will, fly you out and allow you to participate in all of that. But it's such a huge beneficial opportunity. You get to meet people of similar interests from different backgrounds. So, if a lot of people play the same game, then obviously they have something in common, and so that's a way to connect with people. You get to see so many different countries that you probably would not have been, able to visit otherwise. It's like who you might have heard of the Philippines, but being able to go there on vacation is a lot different from being able to go there for free. Right. And so that's an opportunity to just participate and immerse yourself in other cultures. But at the end of the day, you are still there to compete. And so, because it's at...
keep you focused.
Exactly. And especially because a lot of these players are at such a high level. These are people who are semi-pro already, most likely, if not pro already. So they're used to these high-tension environments where, the smallest mistake or lapse in judgment could be the difference between $10,000 and going home empty-handed. So, it's a very potentially intimidating learning experience, but definitely, there's nothing else like it. And if you take from it as much as possible, then, you're really a lot better off from it in the long run. But yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities. Even if you don't make it out of your group, or if you don't qualify for the next round, you still get a free trip. You still get to meet a lot of people. You can get, training partners for the next round. You can try a whole bunch of different foods. You can see sights and hear languages that you've never heard before, etc., etc. So, while it may be nerve-wracking for some or difficult to get there, the payoff it's truly immense.
Right, and so that is for the athlete.
Yes.
So now let's take that athlete and let's say, okay, he might be like me and wasn't able to fulfill his dreams and become the super elite athlete beyond just serving the nation XY, etc. And be at the top of the game like a Shawnee and the rest of those. But the exposure you just highlighted and the talking and the networking, that will then expand those athletes and those who are support the athletes' minds, so then they can come back and tap into other aspects of the industry and keep expanding the industry from strength to strength.
Yes.
I think that is powerful, and if you get people to pay for that, right, for you to go, I don't see why we'd be holding people back from doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And even, like you say, even if the individual athlete isn't able to place well, a lot of times the experiences that they get, they're able to bring back home and share with other people who weren't able to travel. So now, everyone benefits from that. It's not just one person, it's the whole community that benefits from people with more exposure, more experience, more connections, etc. They might make friends with a very high level opponent, and because they play online in the same region, they might be able to practice together for the next foreseeable future.
Right.
And so that might raise their skill level. They take those skills and they pass it on to their friends locally, and so now everyone is better off for it.
Yeah, that's big, because I know sports what it did for me, and to allow me to, first of all, stay out of trouble. But the second thing would be is the competition and just being able to fight through, getting strikeout and what have you. That made me better on the job in the analog world, or the real world, as we call it. And so those same skills can come back even if the person doesn't make their goals, and you become better skilled as a whole. So that's awesome. So when we look at this now, tell us some of the high points of athletes who would have gone off, or even here, if the high point is here. So people could get appreciation of what can happen. We talk about money, but I mean, there's more than just money, right?
There definitely is. I'd say, well, there's one player in particular who I want to highlight. His name is Lucius, and he plays Tinkin for us on a national level. But this is someone who I've started working with from I first joined the eSports community back in, like I said, 2017, 2018. He was one of the first people I met. So I've watched his growth from, an introverted, sort of shy young man who didn't have as much confidence as he should have, to, someone who can travel and compete internationally, make friends anywhere in the world, and like I say, bring those skills back. And so when we went to Romania last September, the tournament that he participated in was a two-part phase where it was group stages where he had to play against 3 or 4 other people in his group, and if he made it out of that, he would make it into I guess the single elim or the final stage of the tournament. And so he made it out of his group stages, and he performed very well. He won most of his matches, and the only ones that he lost were lost by a very narrow margin, like one hit. Literally the last 50-50 he lost. But he went on to compete against the person who ended up placing third in the tournament, who was also from the Americas region. And so, we've reached a point where I personally have seen him go from someone who was, struggling against local opponents, coming 5th and 6th out of, a dozen people here, to being able to compete on a world stage and come, 33rd out of 120 people. And these are people who represent their host countries and who have been through the gauntlet, and who have actual professional careers, who you can look up tournaments of on YouTube where they've won, or that sort of stuff. So I think the high point for now would be the growth that we've seen so far, but looking at it, there's still so much more to go. There's still, I believe that we as a country, even though we're very small, we're very talented in a lot of areas, whether it's the visual arts or music or eSports or anything like that. We might not have a large population, but the people we do have are very good at what they're passionate about. So I really see this in the next 5-10 years. We might have the Bahamian be a winner of a very big international tournament. That sort of global publicity that we're looking at.
Yeah, but I always say that when we put our mind to something, we can be on top. I've seen that happen in every single sector, whether it's sports, or whether it's business, or whether it's culture, or whether it's arts, etc. Whoever we find those in the crew who are gonna be focused and dedicated and passionate towards what they want to do, that's 90% of your battle rate. Take it from me.
Yep.
That causes those things to happen. But Tyler, I don't know, these guys you must be hitting all the spots because nobody's asking any questions. But that's all well and good. Maybe they just like to see people when they ask the question. But Murphy tried to take us out, but he didn't take us out. We still got a good bunch of content on the table that would be good for people who want to come back and watch later. A lot of people do watch afterwards, actually. So I've asked you a lot of questions. What would you like to say to the general public or any specific group out there?
There's a lot to cover, I guess, and a lot of people have a lot of different questions. So if there's any point where you do have an interest in esports, or you have a question, or someone who's interested in esports or whatever, I think it'd be good to just reach out to us. We're very friendly people, we're very welcoming people. Just reach out to us and ask us any question you have. Let us know anything that you think we can be doing or improving on, or anything like that. Just come out and talk to us, and see what we have to say, see how we can help you, see how we can enlighten you or provide understanding. And yeah, we're here to help things grow and help educate people and all that. So as many questions as you have, we'll answer.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think this is the time where I plug the socials.
Yeah.
So my marketing director doesn't get mad at me. But if you want more information, you can go to our website, and that's besf242.org. Or you can find us on most social media as BESF242. I think that's our Twitter and Instagram, and our Facebook might just be BESF. If not, it's BESF242 as well. And my personal socials, if you have any questions for me about esports, anime, manga, just any nerdy thing at all, you can find me at Ronin, RXNIN, on Twitter and Instagram. You can find Manga Corps at manga.corps on Instagram, or Manga Corps on Twitter as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Well, Tyler, it's been really great. I appreciate you coming on and talking about this opportunity, because I mean, $100 billion sound like a lot of money, but you just said one game by a 16-year-old tapped into almost $3 million, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, we know how we go. When we like things, we copy things. So once we get this ball moving and get the critical mass for the education and stuff, this is going to be a huge game changer for us in this little near Bahamas. And I applaud you and Michael and all the team who are doing and dedicating your time when we might be seen not to reap a harvest. But there's always time between sowing a seed and the harvest. So you just stick with Galatians 6:9 and keep doing well, and you will be well rewarded for it.
Thank you.
I'm convinced of that. Because I know those big money people like the Sir Franklins and all those entrepreneurs and philanthropists, and I never say the word right. Even some of the numbers people on the side could create a pool where we could build that lab. At least one, start with one, and then duplicate it. Because digital, we could do that from anywhere in the world. 242 is all over the world, and they could all Zoom back in, not Zoom, but over the internet, connect, talk, because your games aren't just restricted to the area where the people are, right? I mean, maybe you go to the tournament there, but when you're training and stuff, you'll be playing people from all around the world.
We hold, there are online tournaments too. We hold online tournaments, and there's a number of tournaments out there that are online. So, it doesn't matter where you are, you can participate. We have players on national teams who may live in the United States, for example. So, you're not really restricted by geolocation. As long as you're Bahamian, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. You're born there.
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you kindly, and we will be with you in a couple. So, folks, thank you for watching Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. If you have any questions, as Tyler say, just drop it. You could shoot it on this website also, and he'll get the message, because he'll be tuning in to see who responds and what have you, and so forth. Be safe. Teach the children. Educate who you need to educate, so we could go from strength to strength. And we'll be back next week, same time, same bat channel, with some more provocative and enlightening conversations. See ya.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative, 242.